Valhalla and being awesome?
All right, we are live. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gaming Perspective Podcast, the most on-time podcast on a Saturday night, mainly because we're one of the few podcasts on a Saturday night. But regardless of that, it's another exciting Saturday. We have a lot to talk about, and 7 Day actually brought some interesting stuff. And, you know, gaming news in general. Next Gen is here or on its way, and we have a lot to talk about. We have a great guest on, and we have a full panel. So it's going to be a good show. So we'll get right to work with the original panel, and then we'll introduce our guest. So starting with from Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey! It is good to be here with you, fine gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Great to be here, Sam. It's a fantastic Saturday.
It really is, for many reasons. We won't do that here, but there's many reasons it's a good day.
It's a good day. And also introducing from Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore, the guidesman himself, Mr. Jared Eden.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, you were saying up for Sam. I was like, I still don't know who's going to say it for. I got to get used to that eventually because I know it's always going to be Sam and then me, so I need to get used to that. But yeah,
or it might not be. Wait till I throw that.
Oh man, I'm not going to be ready. But anyways, I'm excited to talk about what's been happening this week and all sorts of fun stuff. Got Next Gen to talk about and a bunch of other things. And yeah, it's going to be great. Let's get talking.
Absolutely. And introducing from the sunny lands of Florida in the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. Well, not so sunny right now, but it's Florida.
Yeah.
Mr. Eric Jackson.
Yeah, I'm coming live from Waterworld, South Florida, man. It's raining out down here and tropical storm breathing down our neck. Hey, you know, it wouldn't be 2020 if it wasn't like going into November where we're supposed to be somewhere past the hurricane season that another storm's like, hey, I'm out here. I'm gonna take my shot.
You get one more. Just one more.
Yeah. So we have that kind of looming. But other than that, been a crazy week, but looks like things are getting brighter, man. We're on the cusp of new gen starting and other changes. But yeah, good week. Oh, well, better week ahead, I hope.
So, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was 20 degrees Celsius in Canada today. Well, in Ontario anyway. Jared's like, what the hell, man?
I got a blizzard outside right now. I got wind warnings. It's been snowing all day. It's not nice outside. Like most of Alberta and Saskatchewan's in a literal blizzard warning that's covering, I don't know, if you probably turned Alberta on its side, and that's the square area of the actual size of the storm. So, you know, yeah, it's been Canada over here.
Yeah, it's been short and beer weather up here, and I've been enjoying it. And that's why East Coast, Best Coast. But
new tagline: "Winter be tripping."
I guess I'm the only person originally from the West Coast here. Oh man, that sucks.
It's wiggity whack, dog.
You're whack.
But introducing to the podcast for the first time, a gentleman who does an amazing Xbox-focused podcast on his own, which is something I could never wrap my head around, of being able to keep a conversation going with meaning and direction quite like he does. The host of the Xbox Expansion Pass, Mr. Luke Lore. How's it going today, sir?
Today's a good day, man. It was a good day. There's a little light on the horizon, which is exciting, and we've got new consoles coming up real soon. A lot of people are already getting their hands on them, and man, it's a good day for hope, man. I'm excited. I'm ready to talk games. That's kind of cool. We can talk some games on the eve of that. So yeah, man, I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Excited to have you on, of course. And if you don't watch the Xbox Expansion Pass and you enjoy Xbox, and even if you don't, I don't know what you're doing. It's a highlight of my week every week. Yeah. So definitely
great show.
Thank you very much.
Now, shuffling right along for stuff that apparently people care about. It was N7 Day today, which apparently is a big deal to people. I don't know. I've never played a Mass Effect game. So, Sam, why was today a big deal for Mass Effect fans?
I'm going to get you.
Yes, please. Can we just
N7 Day has always been a celebration of everything Mass Effect. November 7, N7. It's funny. It's clever. It works. But today was a very big deal for a twofer. One is something that leaked months ago thanks to Jeffy Grubby Grub. Shout out to him. Love you, Jeff. And that is that the Mass Effect trilogy, the first 3 games starring Commander Shepard, are being remastered. 4K graphics, higher frame rates, better shaders, better textures, all the DLC, all the promo items. It's all being compiled into one package. PS5 and Xbox Series X support, of course, and other enhancements for those consoles. And it's coming out sometime in spring 2021. Pretty cool. The games obviously are available on PC. First one's port isn't great, but they are there. And they're available on Xbox backward compatibility. But otherwise, there wasn't really a great way to play them, how do I put this, in a modern, polished way. Like, it was very tough to do so and get a complete experience. So this is going to be great. I'm definitely going to pick it up. I know everyone else will. I know that, Nick, you will be taking this opportunity to amend and make restitution for your sins, right?
Right.
No. the only good BioWare RPG is Baldur's Gate. Get over it.
Shut up. Oh man. Well, aside from your nonsense, we'll go back to that in a moment. The other cool thing, and this was reported on first by Jason Schreier back in November 2019, and BioWare hinted at it back in, I think, N7 Day 2018. Casey Hudson's VDoc, his video, sort of hinted they were doing this. But yes, they are working on a next-gen Mass Effect game. No other details apart from a single piece of concept art, but it's out there. It is happening. And I am very excited as a huge fan of the franchise. So.
Luke, what about you? Are you day one? Ready? Reloaded, ready to go? Or...
I've dabbled in Mass Effect, and I'm not a strong Mass Effect fan, which is it's interesting to me because I'm not really. I love sci-fi, and at the time when they were big, I was not big into RPGs. It took The Witcher 3 to teach me how to RPG properly. Kingdoms of Amalur had been there. That was probably the closest I'd gotten. And then it was really Witcher that allowed me to kind of venture into that genre well. So, in fact, I'm quite excited for this because my understanding is that Mass Effect 1 does not age well in and of itself. And so I'm very anxious to see how this new collection does as far as bringing that to a more modern sense. I hope that, Anthem, I'm really excited to see the Anthem 2.0. And so I hope it doesn't come at the expense of Anthem 2.0. Obviously, is what everyone's thinking. And if I could just make a quick side note, guys, you've got a somebody in your chat that you don't need. His name is Joseph Moran. He's honestly the worst. I know you talked to him recently. He's honestly the worst. Legitimately bad at Sea of Thieves. Let me just tell you that. Legitimately bad at Sea of Thieves. Yeah, he got his hands on a DualSense, called it a DualShock. I don't know. This kid's crazy. But back to the real topics. Yes, I'm very excited for this because I would like a way to enter into Mass Effect and enter into it well. I would like to kind of learn that world and give it a second chance, as I hope a lot of people will.
Absolutely. Jared, what about you? I kind of know where Sam's at, obviously, with Mass Effect, but I've never picked your brains on Mass Effect. Where are you at with the Mass Effect collection?
Well, I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of the series, but I'm not as hardcore of a fan as most people. I really fell off during Andromeda, and I kind of just grew this sort of distaste and more of just kind of for the series. Now I'm curious to see what it looks like, with this remaster collection trilogy thing, whatever. But other than that, I don't know if I'm going to be done Cyberpunk by the time it comes out.
Wait, Jay, you started with Andromeda?
No, I started right from the very first. I've been a fan of the very first one. I've been actually...
Stronger question. Is Cyberpunk coming out?
It remains up for debate. It remains up for debate.
We got to get down to at least 5 days before launch, and then even then we might... It's a little iffy. But yeah, I've been a BioWare fan since Dragon Age Origins, so I've played a lot of the games since then. I've been really adamant on making sure I play those games because they're also Canadian too, right? So I really got to support them up here since they're 3 hours north of me. But I don't know if I'm going to pick this one up. I might be burned out from open world games by that time, and I don't know if I'm willing to invest all that time again into Mass Effect games, because let's be honest, it's like 60 hours a damn game going on per game.
I'm not actually.
And the first one, actually. The first one's a little bit shorter. But
the first one, honestly, even the second one, like maybe if you do all the DLC and all the side quests, but dude, if you're just doing like some of the side quests and then the main campaign, 2 is barely 30 hours.
Oh, I'm just comparing to my friend John back home. This guy, he has to do every single little thing. He tried so hard he would have to go back and replay certain missions if he didn't get the exact character timeline that he wanted. I gotta kudos to this guy, because he also made sure to carry over his saves during each game to make sure he got those character timelines good, transferring across and whatnot. I'm just like, I can't do that. No, I'll play game, done. Play next game, done.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't do it. But yeah, I'm indifferent. I mean, if I find time, if it's on sale, sure. But
I'll make sure to tell Jez that you're really interested in doing guides for it. Eric, are you interested? Are you interested in the Mass Effect trilogy or no?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I was actually prepared to start another playthrough I should say at some point with the extended backlog, but literally when we started hearing about this thing, I was like, I'm just going to hold off for when, thinking that it was coming a long time ago. But at this point, it's very interesting that it's actually crossing over into the next generation. But like Luke was saying, it'd be actually kind of funny if this game makes it out before Cyberpunk. At this point, kind of interesting. But no, I'm definitely gonna play it again. And fun fact for me, I was very late to the Mass Effect 1 party, and what actually got me into Mass Effect, because a lot like what Luke was saying, I wasn't a huge RPG player at that time in my gaming career in the 360, but the demo for Mass Effect 2, I was like, what the hell have I been sleeping on here? And after playing the demo for Mass Effect 2, I went back and actually did Mass Effect 1, and I was hooked from that point on. So I literally went through Mass Effect 1 by the time 2 dropped, and then started right into 2. And then when Mass Effect 3 came, it was a wrap. And then I went back to Mass Effect 1 because I somehow made a mistake and got Rex killed, and I said I had to go back and rectify that. And so about a year and a half years later, I went back and saved Rex. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when I'll fit it in, like sort of like what Jared's saying, but it's definitely going to be purchased. I have to go to that again.
Yeah. I actually very clearly remember Mass Effect because I didn't play the trilogy. Like, I did not, because at the time when I was playing on 360 at the time, like game time was very limited. I remember me and my roommate, we had a shared Xbox 360, and we saved together like a bunch of tip money from the part-time job we were working at the time to buy a game. And we weren't sure. We went to the store and we couldn't figure out whether we wanted to buy a BioShock or the original Mass Effect. That was our decision at that point in time of our lives. And I was like, I don't know. So we ended up flipping a coin on which game we would buy, and we ended up buying BioShock, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. And I never went back and went, hey, I should play Mass Effect. By the time I got interested in Mass Effect, there was 3 games, and it felt incredibly daunting to go back through. And then every Mass Effect fan doesn't help, because they're like, hey, Mass Effect's an amazing RPG franchise, but 1's really terrible.
Yeah, and that has been the thing holding it back. Like one has some of the best writing, if any game ever. I will contend that. Like the speeches and the dialogue options and the way your choices play out in that game, like they hold up magnificently. The gameplay doesn't, though. Unfortunately, like it's very rough. It's rough at the best of times, and that's assuming you're playing the 360 version, which is like the most polished. PC is even worse because it wasn't a good port. So that more than anything else, like this is, I don't want to say reset button, but this almost feels like a good way for BioWare to hit the reset button after everything that happened with Andromeda, like saying, okay, here's a polished experience. This is a good way for you, whether you're a lapsed fan, classic fan, or you've never played at all. This is a good way for you to get back into the groove of things. And yes, we're working on the next one as well. So I think that's kind of why I'm not usually a fan of games being announced long in advance, but I think it kind of works here for that very reason.
I am curious, though, and I don't know. I didn't go through like any fine-tooth comb, and I don't. You guys correct me if there was more information that dropped, but I do have concerns about Mass Effect 1, about how much they're going to actually touch that, because I didn't hear the words like remake being thrown in there.
Yeah,
So but that doesn't mean there won't be some quality of life improvements. I did hear that there's like new character builds and things like that. But yeah, so some of that, some of the Mako stuff has me concerned, because that was probably one of the more wonky parts of Mass Effect 1.
I know from Liana Rupert, who's a huge BioWare fan and Mass Effect fan, said that fans need to temper their expectations in terms of the quality of life improvements on the first game. Said that there was going to be some great upgrading in terms of like the performance of the overall game, and there would be some quality of life improvements, but to keep expectations in check on what those quality of life improvements are, and to remember this is a remaster, not a remake. So
that raises eyebrows for me, because this is a very important release for BioWare. I jokingly referenced Anthem earlier, and I love Anthem for what I enjoyed it for. I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed the story that I got from it. And I had a fantastic time playing it, but it wasn't what was promised, and it let a lot of people down. That tarnished BioWare's reputation after Andromeda had done the same, even if it wasn't 1-to-1. And so if this is going to be Mass Effect's return to form, then they need to have the best first impression possible for these new fans, because it's been so long since Mass Effect 1 and so long since people have seen Mass Effect have a release that they're going to have a whole new slate of potential fans. And my hope is that they nail this to reignite that passion and that fandom that it once had, because I think it has waned after seeing Andromeda's arrival, after the ending of 3, and then what BioWare's and the name of Mass Effect has been linked to since, if that carries any weight.
No, it absolutely does. And I'm not trying to push back against what Leona said, but Jeff Grubb, who, just to restore a bit of faith here, who was the one who, first reported on this and leaked the existence of the games in the first place, did say the entire reason, more so than the pandemic, that this trilogy had been delayed was because they realized 1 needed more work. I'm not saying people should expect a full-on remake or anything, but I do think it'll be way more pleasant to play.
And it is reassuring, because Grubb has been so accurate when it came to information specifically related to Mass Effect, and that is encouraging. I sincerely hope that fandom and that fan groups gets what they have been asking for within reason. And I will always also say that it's important that when games delay, we allow them to delay, especially right now. And so whenever this truly releases, I hope it's the product that the developers and those involved with this remaster-ish collection want it to be.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for BioWare because, as you said, this is going to be our first taste of Mass Effect since Andromeda. And with a lot of fans, Andromeda left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths. And unfortunately, hype is kind of being curved down with BioWare, because between Anthem, doing Mass Effect Andromeda and then Anthem, we've got a next generation Dragon Age that's in the works. We've got a next generation Mass Effect. So I'd like to take those kind of announcements at face value. It's exciting that, Mass Effect isn't shelved and put away, because after Andromeda, they were like, this is the last Mass Effect game for a long time. And by the time the next one comes out, it'll probably be a long time since Andromeda. But I don't know. It just makes me happy when I see IPs that people are very emotionally attached to coming back in some way. And I think it's way too early to go get doom and gloom about it. And people obviously need to keep expectations in check, but there's always a part of me that's going to hope that BioWare can regain what they had before and do the amazing work that they were so known for. And hopefully EA respects that and keeps them making RPGs instead of looter shooters. So bumping right along to games that were made by studios that were amazing, but I don't know why they made this game. Marvel's Avengers seriously underperformed this week. I'm not going to say this week since its release. Now, the common misconception that I always heard in terms of Insomniac Games Spider-Man is it didn't matter that Insomniac made a good Spider-Man game. A Spider-Man game would sell regardless. Well, Marvel's Avengers has thus proven that it still needs to be a good game at its core in order to capture an audience. So Square Enix, during their financials, and Sam will fact check me if I've got this written down correctly or not, Square Enix basically announced that they took a whopping $63 million loss on Marvel's Avengers, which is ouch.
So so I'll interject here because I'm not cutting you off. The answer is we don't know. They recorded a loss of 63 million. It's like 6.5 billion yen, I believe. The dollar conversion. It's a little rough. But the issue is Square Enix does not always book numbers 1-to-1. They booked all of FF7 Remake's profits this past quarter, but they did not book its losses. Its losses were booked last quarter. I was actually talking back and forth with an editor and a couple of people in finances I know about this. So the long story short is their books are intentionally very confusing, and we don't actually know what's going on. There is a loss being recorded alongside Avengers. It would not surprise me if it underperformed, especially since, they haven't said anything about its sales. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm just saying I would be cautious about stating something as fact based on what we have. That's
I pulled up 19 articles that said that, so I assumed that was a pretty root core. But of course, with anything, and American financials are interesting, but Japanese financials are next level when it comes to trying to figure out what's going on there. But to say Marvel's Avengers missed the mark, I think would be an understatement. I don't mean that in a inherently negative way. I just don't think they managed to capture the audience they thought they would, because so far from what I've seen, I know some of you guys have played it. I don't know if Luke has, but I know Jared and Sam, you both played it. It failed to capture the Marvel audience in terms of, creating a story or an aesthetic where Marvel fans really wanted to dive into it. I heard the story was really good for what it was. Mm-hmm. But it felt like, as Sam and both Jared have also said, it felt like two completely different games at once. And I kind of understand why that wouldn't appeal to a Marvel fan who just wants to play an amazing campaign as their favorite superheroes. And it also didn't capture this magical shooter-looter audience that a lot of developers seem to be chasing, but I don't necessarily know if it exists outside of Destiny, Division, and Warframe. I really don't know at this point in time. So what do you guys think? Marvel's Avengers, do you think, it's a rough start, but it'll get better? Are we looking at like a Sea of Thieves kind of deal where, they're going to tool the game and find an audience? Or do you just think that, they're going to cut the cord on this one? We'll start with Luke, because you look like you're chewing on a thought right here.
I'm chewing on several thoughts, indeed there. As far as the cut the cord question, that is a 50-50 shot right now, because it's a matter of who's calling the shots. And that was the problem with this game, is it felt like two different games. And I think I've mentioned Anthem, I'll do it again. When you have a story and then you have a looter shooter and you don't do either well, you have a problem. The gameplay is indeed there. There's a fun time to be had being a superhero, but what we ended up with was a game by committee that was repetitive in nature, and the loop didn't stick. And I am hopeful that it is recoverable. I think if they, along with next gen, but they're also able to reduce some of those load times, if they're able to bring a bit more enemy variety. They've already had some character variety that they're looking to bring, and I know Chadwick Boseman's passing impacted some of the announcements that came with that. Understandable, though. If I were them, I would be working as hard as they possibly can to find a way for crossplay to become an option, so that those audiences that are interested right now are not lost. They have people to play with. Find a way for Spider-Man to be compatible on some level. Marvel is a powerful entity. If they can find a way if I play with a PlayStation person, maybe I can't play as Spider-Man, but he can exist in my game. That way you have more kind of crossing of audiences there. There is a game within that core that is salvageable. They've already begun fixing the egregious economy, which is very, very, I thought predatory. I did not enjoy that economy at all. But I liked playing through as Kamala. I like playing as Iron Man. I think there's a lot of hope to be had with many of those characters, but I don't enjoy looter shooters that look to your chat. I don't enjoy looter shooters that push numbers impractically. And when you have that, why does Hulk need a gear score? It feels odd.
Machines.
Yeah,
I make this joke every time. Nick loves it. Like, Hulk does not need nano machines injected to make him stronger. Come on, y'all.
And why is Tony Stark salvaging this armor when he's making it? It seems
a box
odd.
of scraps.
Yeah, it was wild. That's right. And Dan is in the chat, and I have mentioned the incredible game that is Anthem 4 times now. But shocking that Avengers did not learn from it. It proves that IP is powerful, but it's not always powerful enough. And
Yes.
Spider-Man was a great game. You could have put that in Infamous's engine, and you would have had a great Infamous game. That game was just good. And Avengers right now is not good enough on its own. Definitive statement.
Yeah.
He hit basically a lot of the marks, and basically the only other criticism I've had with, like, literally he hit every single one. And the only one that I still bugs me to this day is, like, when you're playing as the Hulk or someone like that, you don't feel like you're an actual superhero. You just feel like you're a really strong dude beating up other bad dudes, and it's just like, okay, I don't feel like I'm a superhero. And I understand that there's the whole loot grind thing and the gear grind and all that kind of stuff and stat grind, but in the end, you're meant to feel like a superhero. And I feel that in Marvel's Avengers, you don't really get that feeling. You can play the character, but you don't feel like playing like you're an actual superhero sort of thing. At least I never got that feeling. And that's one thing I think they really need to sort of fix a little bit and tweak and just figure out the best way to portray how each character differentiates their strengths in combat.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that, because, like, I think, like, you gotta think balancing. Like, I would have been okay if they, like, glass cannon Hulk. He has a really low health bar, but you basically one hit all enemies except bosses. That kind of makes sense with Hulk, right? Like, I don't want to have to smack a dude with an assault rifle 6 times as Hulk to knock him to the ground. Like, that's kind of like it's kind of my same issue with Ghost Recon Breakpoint at launch when they had the loot thing. It was like, I have a 50 caliber sniper rifle. I'm 90 meters away from this guy. I shot him in the head and I did half of his health. Oh, okay. Could probably shoot a tank doing that, but it provides this disassociation for me that I really hate about most looter games. Is there's this disassociation from reality to create a need to grind for gear. And I really, really hate that gameplay cycle. So I've never found a looter game that, like, immersed me, because it's so immersion breaking, where it's like, all right, to kill this boss, I only need 6 clips of assault rifle ammo. It's like, no, it just doesn't. It does something in my brain. I don't like it. And high fives all around to me and Eric for being the ones that stood our ground to dim by the game. Shout out to Jared and Sam.
I had to cover it, you schmuck.
I didn't, but I just I enjoyed it for what it was up until, like, Anthem, the very end, and just went, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is what it is. Eric, any closing thoughts on Avengers? Because I know you're a good you enjoy Marvel a lot, and I know you were kind of interested in the game up until they were like, hey, loot. And then you, like me, were like,
yeah. I'm a 100% comic nerd, through and through. And you would think, like you mentioned, this would be a game I'd be day one on, an opportunity to play, like, as the Avengers. And with these types of games, I mean, Anthem being what it is, it was fine. Okay, that's what you're trying to do. I asked the same question, though. I'm like, you're BioWare. Why are you doing this? Like, the question you would want to ask is, are you doing this? Obviously, we know most looter shooter games are built to make revenue and to be a game that you keep people coming back to over and over again, and people are going to keep trying it and banging their head against the wall. But you ask the question, would your game serve better as just a regular game, or do you truly have an idea that suits a looter shooter, right? And Anthem didn't seem to be that. It seemed to be a game that was meant to be better as maybe like a single player game with, you know, co-op mission structures or whatever. So it's the same thing with Avengers. You know, I see that and I'm kind of like, what about Avengers or a game like this is saying that it needs to be a looter shooter? Like you're saying, it's like, it makes no sense, you know, to do the things that you're doing. Like, you know, Sam's mentioning like the things with the Hulk, what you say, like the nanites or whatever.
Yeah. Like his gear is to make him stronger, or one of them is literally nanomachines.
Yeah,
like,
you're doing that to fit him into, you know, this round peg into this square hole, or whatever, however you want to say that. Excuse me. But I'm like, you don't necessarily, maybe you don't need to be that. Maybe you just need to be like a portion of single player game and a co-op game, and let people just run and raise hell as the Avengers, or, you know, and maybe even add a villain element where, you know, you have the team that can kind of combat both, and, you know, that kind of thing.
Not just that, but like on the biggest aspect is, why don't you just take the gear grind aspect out and just make them character classes?
Right. Because it seems like
as simple as that.
Like, we're going to do this because it'll get people to come back, and it's the Avengers, and people love the Avengers, and we're going to do it because, you know, people will come back and spend more money, not because it makes sense for an Avengers game. So that's kind of like my thought. And when I played the demo, the first thing I thought playing the Captain America portion was like, I just want a Captain America game. That's all I want. I don't want this. I want a Captain America game.
Yeah.
I think when they introduce new enemy types and they're able to find that medium, because when you play as the Hulk, you don't feel like the Hulk. And I know Sam alluded to that earlier, and so did Jared. The frustrating thing is there's something there that I hope is not lost, because I did enjoy playing as Cap, because I felt like I was playing a Cap game when I was solo. And if they can get the MCU suits in there, that'll bring some people back. And if they bring those suits in alongside more content, more variety, then I think you've got something worthwhile to kind of reignite that fan base. I think Black Panther will be a very powerful character, particularly now in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's passing, and that will motivate people to check it out again. The trick is if people will stick around on round 2, or if they'll be lost once again. And this is a good example to hopefully studio executives to see that games by committee, trying to fit the square and the round peg analogy, when you try and force it, it simply does not work, and does not work well.
Yeah, but like, there's also one factor we're kind of skipping over that is a key success for a lot of games that do have their gear grind implementation sort of thing, and that is, of course, the in-game content. But what are you exactly focusing on in the end game? It's that raid, that dungeon, that big massive thing to where you can go into a whole new high-end adventure that gives you unique, specific rewards for your character. And there wasn't really anything like that for Marvel's Avengers or Anthem. Nothing to really drive that player to be like, okay, I know what I need to do at the end of this end game. Now I know what power level I need to get to. There's a big raid, a really cool one with a cool story, and I'm going to have a bunch of friends and we're going to go do that. Ghost of Tsushima DLC did that properly. And that's a DLC. It's not even part of the main game. So you can see, and that's been extremely successful. All the people I've seen playing that have been ranting and raving about it and saying they love it. I haven't even touched it yet. I know Eric and Sam have definitely played it.
It's good.
Good. Exactly. And so I think that's a good example to where Crystal Dynamics has kind of missed a mark with Marvel's Avengers, is they don't have that driving goal at the end of the game to keep that player base going. Yeah. And they need that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what everyone's alluding to is I think it was an inexperience in the genre that really drove both Anthem and Marvel's Avengers to be what they are. Yeah. It's like, Crystal Dynamics is a fantastic studio. Those Tomb Raider games are amazing. But to go from those Tomb Raider games to a live service Marvel's Avengers game, that's a big step in a very different direction.
Yes.
And the same thing goes with Anthem. They did Mass Effect Andromeda. That didn't hit, so they went on to Anthem, which is interesting. And the world they created was interesting, and the mechanics of how that game played were phenomenal because it's BioWare. They do world building and all that in such an amazing and unique way. It's just the loot aspect of it, they just didn't have a grasp on. And I don't think there's any loot game out there that's ever done it perfectly. Because if there was a game that did it perfectly, we wouldn't see Destiny getting 50 million different updates and reboots and redos and everything else. Warframe wouldn't constantly be changing. The things with looter games is you constantly have to change and update yourself based on the community that is playing your game at that point in time. It's a lot of hard work, and it requires a great community manager and a lot of dedicated developers that know what they're doing.
You want to know a good example of that? World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Look at that. Honestly, the entire life cycle of that is it's been constant adaptation to their fan base to making sure that they're keeping them interested and providing what the fan base wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And the World of Warcraft's never been my jam. It's been around longer than I have, probably. So,
16 years? No, longer than that now. It's a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But speaking of things that have been around for a long time, not really, but I don't know how to segue. I'm terrible at segues. So Take-Two is reportedly in talks with UK studio Codemasters, which most recently released Dirt 5, I believe. And
well, it's almost here. Basically. It comes out in a couple of days.
Oh, is it not out? Oh, jeez.
On the 10th. So it's 3 more days.
I thought it was out already on this generation consoles.
November 10.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay, I saw people playing it on my feed. I need to sleep. So apparently Take-Two's interested. Take-Two Interactive has confirmed that it has made a, in quotations, possible offer to fully acquire UK-based racing studio Codemasters in a deal that Reuters says will be worth in excess of $973 million, which is huge. I didn't even realize Codemasters was that big. So incredibly good job to those guys. Any thoughts on this from the panel? Because I honestly have never played anything made by Codemasters. I've heard they do great games. I'm not a racing guy, so.
I'm not really. I haven't really played their games, but I will say it's interesting in that they are actually the oldest studio in the UK, founded in 1982. Actually,
really?
Yeah. So yeah, they are old for sure. They are old. They have just about 1,000 people, maybe a little shy of that. They're pretty large, so it makes sense. Take-Two Interactive is huge, but one of the few things they don't really have is they don't really have a swath of racing games. So yeah, makes sense.
Almost like Rockstar used to make racing games. Anyways,
used to.
Yeah, one of the more popular ones too.
Well, but
this didn't ping on my radar at all. I had no idea that this was a thing until I saw it in your notes and then Googled it. And I think that might be telling in and of itself. I mean, there's a lot of things on our timelines right now as we scroll, but not within the video game space. None of them showed up for me with Codemasters in this Take-Two deal. So maybe that's an isolated incident and I'm in an echo chamber, but I don't think it is. I don't think this was big. Or I should rephrase that. I don't think this charted on anyone's gaming radar right now on the eve of next gen, but it is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have to admit, I kind of got a giggle because Dirt 5 was super popular on Twitter for about 3 days because arguments. And then it faded off, and then it was back to. I have a couple of people that are like racing fans in my feed, so this popped up, and I was like, "Oh, Take-Two's investing money in things. I'm interested." But definitely, it's cool that they're diversifying, and this is something both Sam, Jared, Eric, and myself have been saying for a long time: is that publisher diversity is happening. And you're going to see a lot more publishers picking up smaller studios, and a $937 million isn't small. But in the grand scheme of things, when, ZeniMax is being bought and things like that, smaller purchases, it's definitely interesting to see what the future will hold and who will be bought next to diversify portfolios. I'm honestly surprised they didn't get bought by THQ Nordic, because anything in Europe seems to get bought by THQ Nordic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, but the thing is, THQ Nordic or Embracer Group is actually what they're called these days. THQ Nordic is one of their subdivisions. Embracer Group is the larger publisher and holding company. Yeah. I know it boils the brain at times. This seems a little out of their wheelhouse, though, in terms of how expensive it is. $973 million, $975, whatever it comes out to. Like that's not. It's not ZeniMax, but it's not cheap either.
This isn't the Time Splitters IP.
This is a nice, healthy chunk of Red Dead Redemption 2 microtransactions. You know.
Oh, why'd you have to say it like that?
Because it's true.
The first thought for me was, oh, great, we're gonna have video commercials in Dirt 6 now. And, you're gonna have to watch a 30 seconds to a minute commercial in between races and be like, buy Monster Energy, la 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 la. Oh,
no, you know what I can't wait for? We get next generation SSDs so you can load into your game in 10 seconds so that you can load up a 30-second advertisement. Your load times are the same. You've just got marketing in the middle.
Oh, man. 2K's going the way of mobile gaming.
Dude, I can't wait till mobile gaming gets a hold of putting apps on, the Xbox and PlayStation store. And they're like, hey, we can put ads on this super fast. Laugh now, but you know what's coming.
It's like YouTube going down on ads now. They're like, here's 14 ads before you get to see this video, and you can't skip.
Man, I was literally, my kids were watching nursery rhymes today, and I looked at the red bar, like the timeline bar, and it was literally more yellow than red because my kids need a minute and a half commercial for a Hyundai Veloster because that's totally what they're invested in. Watching Paw Patrol.
The algorithm can't even get right, like what you're like interested in.
Yeah, no, like my kids were watching like Ryan's toy reviews and getting like shot glass like commercials. I'm like,
get them started early.
Yeah,
hey,
I guess
that's proof that Ryan's really like 24 years old at this point.
We ain't.
And Nick, maybe we need to teach about incognito mode, man, because those cookies are.
But moving right along, a game that I was very much looking forward to playing on my Xbox Series X is getting a little bit of a delay, but I'm okay with it because they randomly had Cyberpunk dropped on their release date. So The Medium by Bloober Team has been delayed to January of 2021, which I think honestly is a fantastic place for that game because there's nothing better than getting some good spooks right after Christmas. But yeah, no, I kind of knew this game was going to shuffle a bit because soon as CD Projekt Red was like, hey, we're releasing this game on the 12th, I know everyone at Bloober Team had to be sitting there like, really, guys? Why us? And I knew a delay was coming. Really, really excited for this game. And I am a absolute... I don't do horror games well at all, but I can't wait to play this game. What about you guys? We'll go around, are you interested in The Medium? Are you going to play it? Especially since it's on Xbox Game Pass, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys gonna play The Medium? Get a little spooks in?
Oh yeah, it's one of my most anticipated games in the Xbox launch window lineup. For sure. Yeah. From the moment I started seeing more details on, I was like, "Yep, that's right up my alley."
Can't get enough horror games. Like there's not enough out there. So yeah, gotta play it.
I have a passive interest in it. I think the delay is good for them because more people will have their hands on Xbox Series S or X's by the time they come out. And I mean, they would have gotten stopped by Cyberpunk, provided Cyberpunk doesn't move into January 2021, which but it is almost par for the course, and really, as weak as the Series X lineup was for launch, I don't think it does any damage to really either group, and I think it can only allow Bloober to do more work to refine the game that they want to have when it shows up. But the game looks fun. Spooky games tend to be very evergreen. You can go back to them and return to them. And the fact that it's launching into Game Pass is awesome. That's really exciting. And their last game, Blair Witch, I've never been interested in the Blair Witch movies. That game was fantastic, and I genuinely got scared multiple times by it. So, I'm looking forward to it just on that respect.
Oh man, I still have to play that.
to now them go from a kind of like small indie studio that wasn't really pushing any envelopes with Layers of Fear other than making an insanely good horror game to then go and make The Medium, which looks to be pushing hardware tech as well as creating a really interesting idea for a horror title. It looks incredible. I am there to play for 15 minutes, put the controller down, shake my hands a little, and pick it back up again and play it some more. I'm definitely in on that. That pretty much wraps up that.
I just like, and I am interested. I've said before I'm interested in the game, but I love how blunt they were about like the landscape of the industry, or they used some phrase similar to that when they explained why it was being delayed, and it's like, you had a Cyberpunk dropped on top of you. We get it. No one is going to complain. No one's upset. We get it. We understand.
No one was like, hey, man, you know what? I wasn't going to play Cyberpunk. I wanted The Medium. There's like probably 8 people that were.
There are 8 people, and I work with 2 of them. Shout out to Miles and Farley.
Miles.
Yeah, Miles was one of them.
Shoot.
Yeah, Miles. I love Miles tasting games. He's one of 3 people I know. They're like, you know what Xbox needs to bring back? Phantom Dust. And like, I love the man's energy because it's like, he's like me with Baldur's Gate in 2017. He's that one man on the hill. In respect to him for that. So this is a game that's close to Jared's heart. Battlefield is reportedly going to be coming back in 2021. Now, I don't really understand where these details came from. I think this came from a financial report, correct? Yes?
I think so, yeah.
So,
YouTube report, yep.
Yeah, so it looks like they're bringing Battlefield back in 2021. No real details on what it's going to be other than they said they're going to push the game further than they've ever pushed it, essentially, which I love that PR talk because I'm like, well, where are you pushing it? Because let's face it, I think I speak for myself. I don't want to speak for Jared, but Battlefield 5 was incredibly disappointing in terms of comparisons to previous titles, in terms of its long-term support and what they ended up doing with the title, which sucks because Battlefield 4 was absolutely incredible. Battlefield 3 was insane. Battlefield 1, I had my issues with it, but at its core, it was still a really good game. But Battlefield 5 just really missed the mark in a lot of ways. I know it did financially as well, miss the mark for what EA wanted, and EA has really high expectations usually for their games, so it's come to be expected. But I'm going to go Jared first because you're our resident Battlefield guy. What kind of things do you want to see in the next Battlefield? Kind of like, what would make you go, okay, Battlefield 5, I'll leave it. What'll make me go, I'm all in again?
Well, I guess for fans overall, I think they really need to focus on that single player campaign again. They need to get that story driven campaign in because honestly, half of the fans want that. They want that good single player story that gets them invested into the game, that gets them going, okay, I have the story setting and I can almost transfer that over into multiplayer and I still have that same feeling, and it gets them more emotionally invested into the story. That is severely lacking in both Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. Now, the other things I would really like to see them step up in, which is more than likely going to happen, is, of course, the environmental simulation and the realism of the destruction of the environment as well. They've always excelled in that area. That's one of the biggest reasons I love Battlefield, because in multiplayer, a simple little beautiful town in the middle of France in Battlefield 5, and you go in and start the match, it looks great. Yellow fields, canola fields all around. By the end of the match, the town in the center is reduced to rubble. The fields are mud. There's trenches everywhere. There's barricades. There's shell craters and stuff like that. I really think with this new next generation performance in consoles, they're really going to be allowed to open that up substantially to the point where if you bombard a hillside enough times, you can reduce it to a flat landscape, basically. I really think the destruction simulation on all aspects are going to be increased. I do think they're going to try to increase also the multiplayer battle sizes, going from 32 to 32. They might do 64. I'm hoping they might go 100 plus people on each side and expand that up a little bit more, because you can see it in Call of Duty Warzone, where they have 100 people, 150, 200 people, and it's taken off substantially. And more people, the more fun, more targets you get to shoot, and more chaotic action. And honestly, in Battlefield, that's all exactly what it is. It's chaotic, warlike simulation multiplayer action. Because even though they need to work on a single player, they still need to make sure that the multiplayer works well. And I guess on top of all of this other stuff, they need to make sure that they have good map variety, that have good layouts for good flow, because there are maps that, even though they look cool, they play cool, they're very catered to one side. And you usually end up, if you're on that one side of the map or you're on the one team, you're going to win. You don't need to do much. You can screw around and do whatever, and you can just basically win without having to do much. That frustrates me a lot in a lot of Battlefield 5 maps. Yeah, I think they got definitely some things they need to work on. They're not a whole lot that they actually need to work on. It's just get the single player in, refine what you already have, expand on it, make it better, and I think they'll be okay. Just make sure you have that single player campaign in, and you focus on what the fans really need for the multiplayer. Other than that, it's going to look beautiful. I'm excited. I need Battlefield. I'm missing my multiplayer thing. I know you guys got Gears and stuff like that, and people got Call of Duty or Apex and on League of Legends. I need my Battlefield. I'm dying here, man. I'm ranked 110 on Xbox for Battlefield 5. I thought about restarting my ranking again on PC because I now have my high-end rig. I'm not willing to invest that much time. Just do the damn Battlefield, man. And go back to modern day. I know Vietnam and whatnot, but just go back to modern day. Battlefield Bad Company 3, just do it one time, break it up a bit. You'll win fans over. Bring that comedic squad comedy back. I need it, man. Just let me blow a hole in the wall and kick people in the face, please.
I'm gonna just put this out into the ether, and if it happens like Baldur's Gate again, I will take credit for it. But give me Bad Company 3 with the lead character being voiced by Ryan Reynolds, and everything will be okay with the world. You think I'm kidding? I watched some movie with my friend and his girlfriend. I can't remember what the movie was called. It was an action movie, a heist movie with Ryan Reynolds and a bunch of other actors. Yeah. And it was phenomenal. I was just this guy's amazing. Literally anything he's in, I love.
Same. Green Lantern was, dude, man, I love that.
The dude just brings a different layer to whatever role he plays, because it's always Ryan Reynolds playing a guy, and I love it because he's always himself. But Ryan Reynolds standing aside, I think Battlefield has its work cut out for them. And to Sam's point that he brought up about Call of Duty in our last episode about how, I don't know what Call of Duty is going to do next year because their cycle's all, in the wheelhouse of spinning, and we don't know what's going on, who's going to have the next Call of Duty game, how that's going to work out. I think it's a really opportune time for Battlefield right now to really go, hey, we're doing something different. Try this. Because let's face it, I don't think it's controversial to say that, Call of Duty Cold War is a step down from Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's going to be a rough ride for Call of Duty. And by rough ride, I mean it's still going to be the most bought game of 2020, and it's going to be one of the best-selling games of 2021. But in the court of public appeal, it's going to be a rough conversation about why are we going to a less polished game than the one we already have. And it's going to be a hard argument after that game to get people on board for the next one. They might be looking for alternatives. So anyone else to add anything for the Battlefield related stuff? Anyone really into Battlefield? Or
I'm not a big Battlefield guy, but I will say that there's a trend right now with everyone at EA that isn't named Respawn. And that trend is, it seems like their next game, they need to get it right. BioWare, like they need to get it right with the next Dragon Age. They need to get it right with the next Mass Effect. Like Respawn's doing great. They're doing their own thing. They're on fire. They're fantastic with Apex Legends and Fallen Order. But like DICE, they really need to get this game right. Battlefield 5 it didn't bomb, but it vastly underperformed, and they've lost the DICE LA support studio. That team is now going to be working with Respawn under Vince Zampella on something completely different. They're being renamed. So, fingers crossed. I hope everything goes well for them because they need to get this right.
And I think it's important that they do get it right because Call of Duty does need competition. And they're vastly, they're no longer they're not even close now, right? And I acknowledge that, and I would still say Battlefield has an important place in gaming, specifically in first-person shooters, and I would like to see them kind of return to form. I really like the Battlefield games, but I don't stick around for them. I stuck around for Battlefront 2 when they kind of redid a lot of Battlefront 2. I like that, and that's not exactly the same, of course, but I would just like to see Battlefield be back and be a healthy, competitive shooter in that space to push both of them forward. But to Sam's very excellent point, a lot of the EA studios have something to prove right now. They have to get it right, and I would argue that also exists over in Bethesda land. That a lot of them need to get it right. And it's funny to me how many studios right now that we revere as gamers, but their last game or their last 2 or 3 games have not performed where we would want. And that's a good, I think, parallel to what we're all hoping for the future, is that they're mimicking a lot of things from one set of studios to the next. But when it comes to Battlefield specifically, I'm very on board for them taking the break that they did. And I hope that it's competitive to push the genre forward.
Agreed. Yeah, they definitely need that break. Absolutely. There is, because it was becoming too annualized, too consistent to where, like Call of Duty, it's year after year after year. It was different, but still the same, and it didn't have that kind of contrasting way about it to make it stand out on each title. And they need to make sure they do that this time around.
Yeah. Eric is now asleep because multiplayer games.
Yeah, I'm not a big Battlefield person, but I'm always up for competition. So I think Call of Duty is definitely a better place when they have Battlefield breathing down their neck.
Yep.
As well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's definitely lots of things that Battlefield does way better than Call of Duty. Like before we move on, one thing I'll always love about Battlefield, especially when I got myself a decent headset for the first time, was putting that on and hearing the audio from multiplayer for the first time through the nice headset was just incredible, because I could hear the bullets zipping over my head. It was such a realistic sound that put me that much more into it. And I love how Battlefield does that compared to Call of Duty, where it sounds more arcadey. But I haven't played it recently, Call of Duty, so I don't really know.
Well, it doesn't. You don't really hear anything because everyone runs dead silence and silencers. So you'll hear a whap 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 sound, and then you're dead. That's Call of Duty experience.
Yeah, see, Battlefield is like you hear the roar of like guns off in the distance, artillery shells, vehicles in the background. You can hear the rumbling of the missiles flying overhead, rumbling of the tanks on the ground and whatnot. It's incredible.
Nope, at Call of Duty, everyone uses dead silence. You can't hear footsteps. All you hear is me running through a house with a shotgun cackling.
Me.
Yeah.
Me too.
My favorite thing in Call of Duty's games is to just load up free-for-all lobbies and just run a shotgun and then hear everyone over their mics going, "Bro, that's not a real gun." And I'm like, well, it seems to be working like one. So, but yeah, no, it's. I want Battlefield to be competitive because a competitive Battlefield keeps Call of Duty in check and keeps them pushing forward. And I think Call of Duty's also got to kind of keep an eye on what Respawn or what Vince Zampella's doing in terms of what they're doing over at DICE LA as well, because if there's one guy who seems to understand how to make a shooter, It's the guy, people over at Respawn, and Zampella has a knack for getting projects out the door. Titanfall is one of the best. The original Titanfall is one of the best multiplayer games on Xbox One. I will fight anyone over that. And Titanfall 2 deserved better than it got, and all you people that bought it for $5 are the worst.
But if you haven't bought it, go buy it, and you guys can get it for $5. Please buy it; it's so good.
Yeah, and if you're somehow too cheap for that, it's going to be on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in 3 days when EA Play is added to the service. So
that and Fallen Order, you guys need to get on
Fallen Order. Yep, if you haven't gotten on Fallen Order yet, that's a good one too. Like. Come on, y'all.
Mini side rant. Everyone that got mad because the original Titanfall didn't have a story, and y'all bought the original Titanfall and played it and, thought it was great. And then when they put an amazing story in Titanfall 2 and none of y'all bought it, y'all hurt me. Because that was one of the first times I saw a developer directly respond to community feedback. And I was like, look at this amazing campaign they've put together. And I'm like, did anyone buy this? All my friends are like, no, I bought Call of Duty or Battlefield 1. And I'm like, I can't. Titanfall 2 deserved better.
It's so good. So good.
But we've got to talk about the great thing that's coming next week. We've got next generation consoles. Now, for those that listen to us, this is going to be obviously because, we got the great gentleman from the Xbox expansion pass here. We're going to be talking about the Xbox Series X launch in this episode, but also there will be a bonus episode on Wednesday. I haven't told this to anybody else. Whether the guys want to show up for it or not, I've already got some people interested. We will be doing a PlayStation 5 episode that's going to talk about PlayStation 5 impressions that happened this past week, DualSense impressions, because a lot of people have had hands-on with them now, and talk about how the launch is shaping up for PlayStation 5. Didn't want to try to cram both that and the Xbox stuff all into one episode, so there will be a special Wednesday episode. And I'll have a time announced for that later this week. But we're going to talk about Xbox Series X Tuesday, right after I finish my shift, where I'm going to run and throw my Xbox One X so fast into GameStop that you wouldn't even believe it. Even though
breaks the sound barrier.
Yeah, go.
I drive your car through the front window of GameStop. Don't do
Feel the power.
Yeah, but love my Xbox One X. Excited to be upgrading to Xbox Series X. So what I want to talk about first, now keeping in mind, Eric doesn't have pre-orders currently. And Jared does not have pre-orders because he built an Xbox Series X and PS5 with his PC. But what I want to do, and this is, I want to have a conversation about what the first thing you guys are going to have on the Xbox Series X. But since we have gentlemen that won't be there day one, when you guys do pick up one, or in terms of software down the line for Jared, because you're in PC land, so you can play it all anyway. What game you're most excited to play on your Xbox Series X first? And since Luke is our guest, I will hand the mic over to him first.
Goodness, I've gotten this question a lot in the past week. I feel like that's the pervasive question going around, and I don't have a definitive answer. My quick go-to is Sea of Thieves. I play that a lot. When you have a good group of friends that get stuck in a live service game like that, it's what you go to. And on the Xbox One, those are atrocious loads. They are just so egregious for how long they take. So I'm very much looking forward to that process. But lacking a big definitive launching on November 10th game, with the exception of Gears Tactics on console, I don't know. I'm really just looking forward to improving the experiences I've had, which is in my mind, the only real argument for getting an Xbox Series S or X at launch is to improve what you've already got. And that's a good thing. I don't argue that point at all. In fact, the blended generation is something that Microsoft actively campaigned for. I think PlayStation is doing something very similar with their lineup as well. But I will probably check out Sea of Thieves. I will test the Avengers loading because I'm curious just to see it for myself. and then it's going to be back to gaming as normal. I found this is a long-winded answer to your question, but I found a few weeks ago that I had stopped thinking about games entirely on a generational scale. I stopped thinking about, am I playing a 360 game? Because I play a lot of back and pat. I stopped thinking about Xbox One. I stopped thinking about Series X games. I just thought games, just Xbox. And I think that's what their goal is, because you're spending money and you're in their ecosystem. But I don't think any longer about what generation I'm playing. I just think I'm playing, which is what PC gamers have been doing for over a decade now, for 2 decades. I mean, PC2 will come out, I'm sure, but like it's an interesting thing. And so Sea of Thieves, I guess, is my answer, but really whatever I feel like playing at the time, because there's no day one game that you have to play. Halo Infinite's not there any longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I will go to the other gentleman. That will be Xbox Series X day one. Sam, what are you like? But like, I'm talking, and I have to do this for you and Jared. This is barring work stuff.
Sure.
What the first game you want to enjoy in your system?
So that's a good point. It's Gears 5, definitely. It's easily one of the best Xbox, Game Studios exclusives that was put out this generation. It performed well on the One X. Don't get me wrong. We all agreed it was a great game. I don't know about your feelings on it, Luke, if you played it or not, but the work the Coalition is putting into the next gen version with the ray traced shadows and the enhanced frame rate and the cutscenes, 120 FPS multiplayer, and I definitely want to check that out. I want to dive in on that and go through, give it a shot. Those load times being cut down to almost nothing, and that kind of like what Luke was saying is just the general theme of next gen for me. It's just the fact that, hey, we're not going to be sitting there for 2 minutes anymore waiting on stuff to load. That is such a big deal. It's such a big deal. I can't get over that. Instead of 45 seconds, it only being 7, 8, 9 seconds. We're winning at that point. It doesn't matter the specifics of which one. I see so many people saying oh, this one does this faster, but this one load this one a second faster. It's like, guys, if we're arguing and splitting those kinds of hairs, maybe take a step back. We should be very happy at this point that both of these consoles are just doing that and cutting it down to next to nothing. That's just my opinion.
Sam, you mentioned when you just talking about Gears gets me really excited, because I sold plasma in college so I could buy a 360 to play Gears 1.
Wow.
And I see your shirt right now, and I've loved Gears since. I even got to visit Epic when they were working on Judgment with People Can Fly. I love Gears of War. And it's funny because I greatly am looking forward to that, but I didn't even think of it when Nick asked. And that's the one that they're pushing as showcase in this box. And it's not even using velocity architecture. That's the craziest part, is that this one's just brute forcing it, which is cool. I mean, it's 120 in multiplayer is amazing. And I hope ahead of its DLC for Hivebusters, which is a great comic book, by the way. You should read it. Also, the books are good too. I love Gears.
Someone else reads the books. Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm the only weirdo here who always reads the books, and everyone else is like, cool. We'll look forward to you telling me what's going on in there.
oh yeah, I've got them. Yeah, they're all over there. But I think Gears is going to be, it has a chance to spark more interest yet again, because Gears and Sea of Thieves and State of Decay carried an unfair burden in this past generation of trying to carry a first-party lineup that was not well diversified, which meant that for every knack you couldn't have Crackdown because Crackdown was one of the only few games you had, and it's frustrating. And so Gears had so much pressure put on it in that catalog that was pretty weak, all things considered, when you look at God of War and Horizon and some of it, the competitor IP. So I'm hoping that Gears gets a second chance on Series X, and that more people try Tactics, and more people try 5, and then go down that rabbit hole. The Phoenix Collection was trending for some time. That's a great, well-developed set of games, and I really dig the path that they were on, and I would like to see them explore more of what they did in 5. So here's hoping people go to it. I get very long-winded and excited about Gears, so I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Sam, I think we need to invite Luke to some Sunday Gears sessions from the sounds of it.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a good idea. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. Go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like no, I'm totally on board that it's definitely one of the games that is showcasing these improvements, and like I know it's not there at launch, but I consider December launch window. I am very excited to see what the Hive Busters DLC is all about. The fact that this game is getting a 3 to 4 hour campaign DLC over a year after release, that doesn't really happen these days. That's not a big thing to do. So I'm very happy they stuck with it. And I'm very happy they're doing that. The other one, I know you said one, but I'm going to pick 2 games because screw you. I'm going to go with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I didn't play Odyssey, so I haven't been burnt out on the whole 200-hour open world thing like so many other people have. I get that. I'm coming at it from a very different perspective. But yeah,
Sam, can I ask you a question before you tell your logic?
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to. Did you play Watch Dogs Legion?
I have not played Watch Dogs Legion yet. Jared,
all right, that's context.
about Watch Dogs Legion.
Okay.
I have not though. Yes. So as a result, like I'm not burnt out on the formula quite like others are, and I get that. I understand that. If you are, I don't blame you. But yeah, I just want to throw axes at Saxon heads, and I want to march into villages and make off with the gold in the monasteries. And the fact that it looks gorgeous and it's 60 FPS doesn't hurt. Like, yeah, it's part because it's technical showcase. I get that, but yeah, I want a game that is just, here's what this baby can do. And it seems like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, at least on the Xbox side, is one of the ones that's going to do that. That's just going to ramp it up to the max. So yeah, those that's me. I'll shut up now.
Man, I'm loving all the games talk. I'm like, it just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside. Now, Eric, before I get to Jared and the PC mustard race, I want to know, because you, like me, have a very, I'm not going to say odd taste in games, but you have a very wide taste in games that appeal to you. When you pick up an Xbox Series X sometime down the road, what's the first game that you're going to boot up when you play it?
Yeah, I'll say Sam and Luke pretty much laid out a path of pretty much where I'll be. And I'm thinking by the time I actually do pick up all goals met with, what I've explained before, or what my wife and I are doing, we're almost there to the goal of 100% debt free, freedom from the credit cards and the car payments and all that fun, good stuff, So that is holding up my, my launch off into next generation, doing the adult thing. And
worthy goal, man.
Yeah, but we are. There's, talk about light at the end of the tunnel. That it's there. So once I'm in, a lot of what I'll be doing, and like you said, screw Nick, I'm going to jump around here. As well.
Love the energy, man.
A lot of it will, I'm sure, be just seeing what some of the things I have look like. One being Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Also, my thing will also be I'll be upgrading to an OLED at the same time as well.
Ooh.
So I'll get it all in one shot. I've already talked it out with Rise, and I was like, "Hey, look, man, we're meeting the goal, and the reward is on the other side of that goal." So
Eric, have you played Ori?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's one of the best games this year, and
hands down,
often overlooked.
Yes,
very overlooked. Yeah,
love that game. This was just fantastic.
Yeah, so I plan on firing that up and then just sitting there with it, just like there, and look at it for a minute. 120 frames per second, the whole fun thing.
So, or the 6K downsampled. I hear that looks like a pain. I hear that looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm going to let my eyes melt on that one. So, so that'll be one thing I'll automatically do, and then I'm looking forward to the Hive Busters DLC Gears and seeing in general what Gears looks like on that. But as far as like the new like the things I'll be looking forward to, like I said, the Medium, that'll be one of the first games I'll definitely be picking up. I know I'm not sure where it's tracking. I've seen some things here and there, but I still have an interest in the Falconer. Cool concept as a game. It reminds me a lot. It's like a mesh between Panzer Dragoon and Crimson Skies, kind of blended together. So there's the intrigue on that. And Bright Memory Infinite. I'm not sure. I know Bright Memory is this year, right? The
Bright Memory is a launch title. Bright Memory Infinite is next year. Yeah.
Did they give a date?
A couple bucks.
I just like first half of 2021.
First half,
That's all.
okay, sometime in that window, in that early part of the year. So yeah, whenever that drops, that looks like a feast. So I'll definitely be checking that out. Oh, and I'm holding off on pretty much everything. Like Luke mentioned, Watch Dogs. I'm not doing the Doom Eternal DLC yet because I want to get Bat at the maximum peak. So yeah, I'll be all over the place.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And as far as being in education, this is a little far out still, but I can't wait for that week of spring break. And yeah, because it's I'll be just sitting there taking it all in.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a good time, and man, really tell you guys, yeah, one game so far. Everyone's done like 6, so I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all. But Jared, what are you gonna play on your PC 2?
That's a tough one. Well, I guess I'm going to be playing a lot of things. The first game that I really went back to on my PC and really actually replayed again and enjoyed the crap out of it was Metro Exodus. It ran phenomenal. You got full ray tracing, full visuals on that thing, and it's gorgeous. It's so much better than what it was running on when I played on the Xbox One X originally. And it's just like this is one of those games where that little bit of extra visual layer with the ray tracing really adds a whole lot more to the game. And it was really nice to see. And that little bit of extra with the lighting, the reflections in the water and the windows, how the lighting from the sky affected a lot of the rooms that you walk into, like seeing the drastic change of lighting going from outside in a bright area to walking into a dark room and barely being able to see anything because your eyes kind of have to adjust a little bit or whatever. It was phenomenal. I had to play that game from start to finish, including all the DLC. And then I guess for newer titles and whatnot, I think my biggest recommendation, because I played Legion and I'm playing Valhalla. I can't talk about Valhalla, but I can say I'm playing Valhalla. I would actually probably go back and play Legion over Valhalla if I was to play a newer cross-generation title to show off what the Xbox Series X can do, or like a higher-end PC. It runs great. You'll get some really smooth frames on both console and PC. And I'm recommending this for console players, not for PC. But if you want to go play something really nice in your Series X, go play Watch Dogs Legions, because that's also another great game that shows off ray tracing in the buildings and the environment that it's in, with the lighting and the reflections of all those skyscrapers and whatnot. It's beautiful. It is awesome. And not just that, but you're running around in near future London with a bunch of crazy Brits. It's an interesting time and landscape. So it's definitely one I would recommend to go play on your Series X. If you're playing it right now or not playing it at all, definitely be a cross-generation game I would recommend.
I wonder if there are other people holding off on actually jumping into that one. To get
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen lots of people saying, you know what, I'm not going to play it just yet. It's too close to Series X to next gen launch, so I can wait a week and a bit, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So on launch day, they'll be like, yes, boot it up, and that'll be the first game that they'll be getting into. That one or Valhalla on launch day, or many other numerous games that'll be coming out that day too.
Right. Yeah. Because I tell you what, as far as the Watch Dogs world goes, this definitely seems to be the one that's resonating with people more than the first one. And the second.
It's fun. It's really, really fun. And I'm surprised at how well the story sticks without having an actual main character to stick with the whole time. Mm-hmm. Being able to have all this whole crew, giant team, all these different types of people, it just works. And I love that about Legion. It's phenomenal. I'm really excited to play it. And not just that, but the premise of the story, you got this London's, in disarray and all of that stuff. But the deeper you look into the people that is causing all the chaos, and Albion and Clan Kelly and all that kind of stuff, it gets really dark and grim, and like you get into the black market of human trafficking, of slaves, sex trafficking, human organ trafficking, black market money, casinos, all that kind of stuff. Like it gets dark, so it's very. I like what they did this time.
I'm digging Watch Dogs Legion. I was not expecting to, and there are a lot of elements of that game that don't age into next gen. They don't feel modernized. They feel like a 2014 game.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it still. I love it despite any of that. And it's actually nice to play a game that is centered around something so complex as hacking, but that is very simple to play.
Yeah.
And for any of its flaws, it is my favorite game that I've played this year. And I don't say that lightly, because there have been some incredible games this year, better games perhaps even, but I'm having the most fun with Legion. And maybe I should have said that when it says, what am I booting up first? Because that game, I will not be done with it. And I'm actually glad that some of the games that have been delayed have been for that sake, because there's so much to enjoy, and Legion, it deserves a good amount of time in. And for what it's worth, Ubisoft games typically go on sale pretty quickly. So by the time people are getting their hands on next gen, they might be able to dive into that world far more cost effectively than otherwise would have. Yeah. I love Legion.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
For argument's sake too, like I'm gonna put my, it's been a very calm episode. I haven't put a hot take out there yet. And I'm gonna put this hot take out there. Watch Dogs Legion is better executed than GTA 5 ever was. Ooh. And Rockstar can be the king of open world animations and everything else, but Watch Dogs Legion is more interactive, more interesting, and has a wider diversity of cast that allows for a more interesting storytelling than two angry white guys and a token black guy character that was stereotypically written in a horrible way. I think GTA 5 is one of the worst Rockstar games, and I think Watch Dogs Legion does a lot of things better. So you can take that to the bank. I look forward to one of the Hauser brothers running me over with their Bugattis. But
Bugatti, Nick.
Tuesday Bugatti. But when it comes to what game I'll be booting up with my Series X first, I'm going to put work aside, because somehow I ended up with Yakuza Like a Dragon and Gears Tactics as my review, and I'm like, oh wait, those come out on the same day. Don't know how I'm going to do that. I'll figure it out. But in terms of games I really, really can't wait to play, once again, if we're going to use this generation games, it kind of blends together at this point. Rainbow Six Siege, man. Rainbow Six Siege at 120 FPS. Yeah, that's going to be the play. I'm definitely Rainbow Six Siege is in terms of just, I want to see how smooth it plays and, how good it just feels. It's going to be great to get back to that game. But I'm really glad I ended up getting the review to do it as well. But like Yakuza Like a Dragon, I'm so excited for that game, because I think it really, Yakuza Like a Dragon represents a lot in terms of what it means, because it's so different compared to Xbox in 2013. Because if you had said back in Xbox, 2013 that, a Yakuza game, Yakuza wasn't even really popping off like it is now, but a Japanese focused title would be a launch title for, the Xbox One, people would have kind of laughed and been like, yeah, okay. But now in the ecosystem that they've created and everything else, Yakuza Like a Dragon's an important part of their launch lineup of software, and it's a game that they've talked about a lot and marketed a lot, and I really think it helps on that image of Xbox needs diversity in terms of what games are available on its platform. I think they've done a fantastic job via studio acquisitions and everything else to show that diversity of their brand. I feel more confident buying an Xbox Series X than I ever did when I bought an Xbox One in terms of the wide variety of games I'll be able to play on the platform. And of course, because there's one guy that subscribes to this channel that absolutely hates this, yes, I will be booting up State of Decay 2, because that is the best zombie game ever. Full stop. Cannot
co-sign.
Cannot wait.
Co-sign.
Yeah, cannot wait to play that game.
Sorry, what about Dying Light?
Shush. Call me when the
State of Decay 2 is awesome.
it
It is an
yeah.
awesome game, particularly since Juggernaut Edition.
Awesome.
yeah, but you just call me a. You know what, Jared? You can bring up Dying Light when Dying Light 2 hits a release.
I
date.
was you gonna say that. I knew you were gonna bring that up.
Jared is the fan of the games without the release dates.
I'm not even gonna bring up the one that I'm most anticipated about because it
Nope. We're not gonna say
Come on,
Cyberpunk.
Samus, let's go.
But Metroid, yeah. Yeah, every time you and John from SDGC bring up Metroid, it gets delayed a month.
Damn it.
But yeah, no, there's a ton of variety of stuff that we'll be able to play, you know, from AC Valhalla, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Gears Tactics. There's tons of new stuff you can play that you probably haven't experienced in the Xbox ecosystem yet, unless you own a PC with Gears Tactics. There's going to be a back catalog of stuff, you know, the Gears 5 improvements. Luke brought up some great points about Sea of Thieves. I forgot about the Sea of Thieves load time because I haven't really played it since launch, but I just remembered trying to load into a game is like, I'm going to go make a sandwich and then eat that sandwich and then pour myself a drink and come back and then I'm good. But yeah, I definitely think, especially with some of these SSD tests we've seen and everything else, you know, the days of going and making a sandwich during load times really seems to be history. And I'm really excited for that. Like the idea of like, you know, turning on a game from a cold, like your Xbox is off, everything else, turn it on in a game in like 14 seconds. I am so in for that. I don't
know what I'm going to do, man. I'm used to checking Twitter while stuff is loading.
Yeah,
like,
really?
I'm not going to be able to do that anymore.
Oh, no.
That might not be a bad thing, though.
No, you're right, Eric. It's probably good. It's probably a better
I want to
thing
see
overall.
the graph of Twitter bad posting versus non-bad posting once SSDs come into play. Because if, like, the trash talking goes down on social media platforms after these new platforms launch, I am going to be hilarious because everyone's just angry at loading screens.
Hey, you know what? Just like I've been there. I am currently there with these NVMe drives. I'm just saying it is going to be such a life-changing experience in a small way because you know, it's just simple loading, right? But you don't realize that the drastic reduced load times actually makes quite a bit of difference in your gaming time.
Well, and it's little things, right, Jared? It's you've always talked about. It's why you went with PC gaming in the first place. Was the little things, right?
Yeah, I guess it's just like, man, Doom Eternal loads up in 5 seconds. Like,
That's nice.
I go from the main menu to playing in the game in 5 seconds. And I'm just like, I can't wait for everybody else to catch up because HDDs really are just the way of the past. There's no going back after this. You can't. It's that life-changing. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like you think about like, and I hate it because it's in our minds now. Like we've had like Digital Foundry's done their breakdowns. We've seen it. So these SSD speeds are in our heads now. I was playing Watch Dogs Legion. I was swapping between characters. And it's like the loading bars going along. And I'm like, you know, I wouldn't even be here if I had an SSD right now.
Yeah. It's only a few seconds for me on PC. Like you change it, I got like maybe a 3-second bit of a black screen, not even loading bar, then all of a sudden it changes over and there's the screen interaction of them switching places and right back where I'm at and off I go.
Yeah, and I'm super excited for when Eric gets his Series X because when he plays the Doom Eternal DLC at 120 FPS, I can't wait for you to get your butt kicked in 120 FPS versus 60 FPS. Because Sam can attest to that. That is a brutal expansion.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
And with that, Nick, I'm not sure why you can't get into Demon Souls.
Right?
Thank you.
Well, see, there's this little thing I've got. There's this little windfall that I have right now. I came into some things, and I'm trading in my Xbox One X, but my Xbox Series X is fully paid off, and I may have an opportunity for a PS5 digital launch week. And I'm sitting there going, do I get it knowing that they're going to make me play Demon Souls?
We will. Like, just to be clear, like, we will. We're dragging you in there. I will buy the game for you if that's what it takes.
We'll do
See,
it.
this is my problem. Is like I swear I have to tweet at PlayStation and be like, hey guys, I need you to block the ability for Demon Souls to be loaded onto my console. Can you do that for me? But no, there's a lot to be excited about. It's an exciting week. So what I kind of want to do is, as we always do with everything on the show, it's always a more positive focus. I really like what I love about this show and what we do is we talk about the positive things about the gaming sphere, because I can leave it up to 30 other YouTubers to do the negative end of the lifting. I prefer to do the positive end of the lifting. So what I want to talk about is some of or one of your favorite gaming moments from Xbox One. Now, this can be a moment you had in a game that really spoke with you at a certain point in your life, or just a game that you can't put down, or just was that experience that made you go, this is why I play video games, or something along those lines. So now everyone's sitting there scratching their chins, and I'm like, okay, so who do I go to first?
Instantly, I already got one.
All right, Jared, go for it, my man.
It was playing Hellblade for the first time on Xbox. That's the one game that has continually resounded with me and resonated with me ever since I played it. I was very happy to see the acquisition of Ninja Theory as well, not for acquisition purposes, but to see that it gets to continue on and be supported and gets a sequel. That game really struck so many chords with me because of how well they designed the audio, because I love really good audio design in video games. As I mentioned earlier with Battlefield, I'm just obsessed with the audio design in the multiplayer. With Hellblade, there was another aspect that they really focused on was the audio design, and not just that, but them tackling mental health and psychosis and all that kind of stuff that really struck home with me, because I'm a big mental health advocate. I'm a big mental health guy, and it's just one of those games where I love it. I've almost have a platinum for it on PlayStation. I've got the 1,000 achievement score on Xbox. I'm close to it on PC, and then I need to do it on the Steam version, and then I need to do it again on the Xbox Game Pass version, PC version, because I can get more achievements for that as well. But I've played the game from start to finish without even doing those 5 times already. So yeah, it's just one of those games. I love Hellblade. It's, to me, my absolute favorite game that came out of my Xbox One moments.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Yeah, and you know what I always keep forgetting is, like, we're getting Hellblade 2. I keep forgetting that game's the thing. I'm like, Fable, Starfield, all these games, and I'm like, yeah, Hellblade.
No, yeah.
Starfield. That's not coming out.
2028, sure, but yeah.
Mark my words, 2021, I will fight people.
Everybody's all, like you said, everybody's with those games, and me, ever since like Hellblade 2 was announced, I'm like, Hellblade 2, that's all I care about next gen. That's my one game I'm looking forward to.
Hey man,
everybody else is just like, nope, Cyberpunk 2077. Nope, if I had a choice between the two, Hellblade 2.
I have to admit, it was the mind-blowing moment that I had with Hellblade 2 was when I was talking to Jared one time. I was like, man, look at Unreal Engine 5. Look how amazing this is. And he's like, yeah, imagine what Hellblade 2 is going to look like on it. And I'm just like...
Yeah, especially now that they're using Quixel Mega Scans and working with that team and using procedurally generated environments and Unreal Engine 5. Oh, just wait, because that teaser trailer more than likely is going to be in-game cinematic type quality. Just saying.
Some real taco sauce going on there. So since we're talking about real taco sauce, I will toss this down to Eric. Eric, what was your favorite moment from the Xbox One generation?
Favorite from the Xbox One? I'm gonna go with Sunset Overdrive. Because it was the game that made me kind of like it did a lot of different things. It stood out because we were so used to having like drab, like browns and dark tones and and everything was blood and guts and everything else. And you got this game that just kind of popped off the screen like this color, and I remember the ad campaign and the whole nine. Actually, even from the first time they showed it, it took me back to a feeling of like the Dreamcast days. It sort of had like that vibe. And I just said, yeah, that looks like the game. like that I wanted. It was like the first game that I really wanted to play. And it was just a game that just reminded you of what video games are. It didn't take itself seriously. It kind of just let you off in this world. Traversal was great. The weapons were fun. It was a video game, you know, and it was a game that, you know, as I would play it, it would just like boost my spirit.
Mhm.
You know, like every time I jumped into it, you know, I didn't come out feeling it. Like some games nowadays, you come out just like, man, I feel bummed out. Or you know, I feel like, man, this is work looking at you, Destiny 2. So yeah, it was just from start to finish, man. You just wanted to jump back in that world and bounce off shit, you know, and grind. And it made no sense, but it made a lot of sense. You know, I'm gonna collect more toilet paper and sneaky shoes off the line, you know, stuff like that. So
yeah, Sunset Overdrive predicting the 2020 pandemic before all of us.
And how terrible energy drinks are.
Yeah, don't tell me I'm gonna be dead by the time I'm 29 because of those things. That means I got 2 years left. Damn. But yeah, no, Sunset Overdrive is great. I'm pretty sure I heard Drew Murray's ears perk up at the mention of someone mentioning Sunset Overdrive as being their favorite game
In my opinion,
experience on Xbox One.
Yeah, not to cut y'all, but in my opinion, it's just a game that deserved a lot better than where it ended up, you know. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm really hoping in some way it's not completely the end for it, you know, in some form of sequel, you know.
Absolutely. It was you, especially in a world of like 2014 and 2015 video games where we were dealing with like everything felt really drab and black and dark. And then Sunset Overdrive came in and was like, hey, there's a kitty cat floating in the sky spitting energy drinks. Will you shoot a toilet plunger gun at it? And it's like,
just breaking the fourth wall left and right here. You put on these like Daisy Dukes and these high top shoes and shoot records at like this, you know, it was down the street, you know.
It was great, and it was really a testament to what Insomniac Games could do. And we saw improvements and changes that brought us Spider-Man after that. So it's really a really cool building block for them.
Yeah, and you know, and one other thing, and what was funny, like you said, with the Insomniac thing. The one thing that kind of stood out, and I actually remember Marty Sleva mentioning this because I think he reviewed it. We're going to go back to IGN days, and he said it's a game where a lot of games they put in a fast travel system because you kind of get tired of jumping back and forth between the world. But some games just handle like traversal so well you never even think to use it. And Sunset Overdrive has a fast travel system that you never care to use. You know, I don't think I used it once. It was so fun just bouncing around and jumping off of everything.
And you know what's great, Eric, is even if they didn't use everything, you can see Sunset Overdrive's DNA in Marvel Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you can
100%.
see the lessons that Insomniac learned, and they're like, okay, we can take this over, we can take this over, in terms of momentum and just how the characters feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just an incredible game that got left behind in some ways for some people, but it's great to hear people still talk about it and love it for what it was. Luke, what about you? What's one of your favorite memories from this Xbox generation?
I have so many, from using, you know, certain games like Ori to teach narrative in my classroom to middle schoolers, which was really cool, to, you know, booting up and seeing different games render in back compat, you know, and be upscaled, enhanced for X, and how cool that was. But I think I'll play a little home field. In this past year, pandemic time, I got several of my friends to dive into we tried out games together in co-op mode, like co-op style games, State of Decay and Sea of Thieves, both games that I'd played single player before and had very different experiences with. And in the past few months, I have rediscovered those games in a different way and just had some of the best moments with my two buddies, Kevin and Joe, who was on Bad Bit, who was on the show a while back. Just to play together in those settings. And it was nice because I have so many incredible single player memories from this generation that I just adore. But having those moments in Sea of Thieves where we together discovered what that game was really cool, because we played all the Halos, we were prepped for Infinite. We were like, all right, what do we do now? You know what? Let's try Sea of Thieves. We've done Gears, and we were like, let's try Sea of Thieves, and we did, and it changed our gaming relationships with one another. We're like, all right, we logging on. Which boat are we using? This, what are we doing? Are we going for this cosmetic? We're going to try to get this. And that was just a really fun experience of just friendship and joy that was brought to me because of that world that was created and crafted and not abandoned, because the Sea of Thieves we played in 2020 is very different than the one that launched.
Yes,
and there's a statement to that. And when we played through all those Halo games this summer, we played through the Master Chief Collection, which has gotten the love and attention that those games are deserving of. And I guess that's my bigger overarching thing, is that my biggest memory, my best thing, is how much they have cultivated and supported some of their franchises that I could have seen them abandoning if a different executive had been in the room at a different time. Mm-hmm. And so perhaps that's my answer.
Yeah, that's
fair.
That's a great answer. Sam, what about you?
There's been a lot of moments, a lot of cool gaming moments. Some of my first adventures in Sea of Thieves, playing Ori and the Blind Forest for the first time and having your heart broken by that game. But falling in love with it all the same and seeing like, okay, Moon, I'm on board. Let's go.
You're wiping the tears away and the tissues.
I'll go back for that. The first time you grapple a Titan in Titanfall, that was an incredible memory. Like Titanfall, like the first one. I don't even mean Titanfall 2. That was an incredible game, and it got millions of players for a reason. It was a big deal. So it's honestly unfair, and I mean that in a good way, Nick. It's a good question. It's a very valid question for me to pick just one memory in terms of what's going on here. What like there's been so many cool gaming things. So I'm going to just go with E3 2018. I was in the audience, the E3 2018. And I remember a lot of us, Nick and I were having these conversations based on, a couple of things we were hearing, but it was still kind of sketchy. Eric and I had many conversations. I think there was just this general consensus of, okay, this is it. Someone correct me if you felt differently or if I'm wrong here, but like there was this general idea of, okay, it's now or never. What's going
momentum
on?
shift?
What are you guys doing here? We heard Phil got promoted. We heard some rumblings, but like, is there actually anything happening or just? And so that entire showcase, from the reveal of Halo Infinite to the whole, yes, we're actually taking our first party seriously, bringing in Ninja Theory, bringing in Playground Games, founding the initiative, all that. The big focus they had, the bringing, first party games to Game Pass, all of that, that was when it clicked in my head of like, okay, they're on the right track again. And everything there, over the last couple of years, you can see it. The pandemic has altered some things. It's slowed some things down. Obviously, there have still been mistakes, but you just look back and you see the plan. You see it all coming together, but it began there, definitely. And so just as an Xbox fan, which is the question as I understand it, Nick, as you asked it, that I think is the defining memory I have since 2013.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one for this. I kind of fall in with Luke a lot more. I have so many memories of games with people, and I'm a huge proprietor of building those experiences. I've struggled with social issues my whole life, with speech impediments and everything else, and now I do a podcast, and people apparently listen to a guy who has a really hard time stringing coherent sentences together. And it's this really strange thing that the only reason I have the confidence I have to do this kind of stuff is because I play games with people, and I played with people that gave me the confidence to do this type of stuff. And my favorite memories are with those people playing games on Xbox, like, playing Rainbow Six Siege with Sam and Ivan, and me just completely doubling down on Lord Tachanka memes and just, absolutely just planking myself with an LMG at the front door, and then the whole squad running through the front door all at once, and me getting the whole squad wipe with an LMG. Like, that's great. I love that moment. Like, there's so many moments like that. There was times like there was going 16-0 in Rainbow Six Siege, and Ivan having 3 kills and 7 deaths, but he had more points and was top of the scoreboard and the MVP of the game, because the game only gave him more points for assists and camera tags than it gave me for kills. and me being very angry about that. There was, State of Decay 2 shenanigans with Sam where I flattened all four. I think it was Sam. If it's not Sam, I'm sorry, whoever I did this to. I flattened all four of their car tires and then drove off in the other vehicle and left them to a horde. There's so many games that were so momentous that I played and brought me closer together with people. I think that's really what I loved about playing on Xbox this generation, was coming together with people and experiencing these games. If I was to put a solo game, like a single player game that really brought me, went, this is what I'm here for, that game would definitively be Cuphead. Because Cuphead was that game where I'm not a hard game guy. Like, I play games I love on hard because it's a game I love, but I don't purposefully play quote unquote hard games. And Cuphead was one of those games where I really love the art style. And I'm like, yeah, I could never beat this. There's no way I could beat this. And I got stuck on the dragon for like 3 months. So I just left it alone, came back, beat the dragon, get stuck on a robot boss, beat the robot boss, moved on. Actually, it wasn't even me that beat the robot boss. It was my wife that beat the robot boss. I'm not a real gamer. I'm sorry. And then we got to the King Dice fight cooperatively, and we couldn't get it. I beat the King Dice fight, and I went, great, now I get to be stuck on the devil for like the rest of my life. And I beat him on like the 4th try, flawlessly, no hit, got the 0 gamer score, rare achievement for doing that. And I yelled so loud at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke both my kids and my wife up. And I regret that. But at the same time, that was still one of the definitively great gaming moments I had on Xbox One this generation. It's been great, and I can't wait for the future because I don't have to abandon these games I had my experiences on. I could still play State of Decay 2 with my friends. I could still play Rainbow Six Siege with Sam and Ivan and all my friends. And it's like I played like Sunday Gears 5 with Sam, where I'm just sitting in the back with a long shot and people are sending me hate messages. Like, these are all things that will continue heading into the next year after, and the year after that. And this blend of no generations and just games it's something I'm ultimately here for. And that was way more long-winded than it should have been.
No, it wasn't. It was very well said. Very well said. And that's the best part of these blended generations. Like, I can't find a PS5, man. I'm trying. I haven't been able to find one yet. If I wanted to, I could go buy Spider-Man Miles Morales and play it on the day it launches, and I'm not going to. I'm going to wait for PS5, but the blended generations is awesome, and I have said to many people who, it sounds like Jared is a PC guy, maybe he doesn't need a Series X, but he can still play with me. He can still play games, and that's dope. That's so cool. And like, I remember the first time I used xCloud. I remember that, and I was downstairs, and I was in my room. My wife just looked over at me, and she had no idea really what I was doing. She's like, it's nice having you down here. Like, because I'm playing on Xbox on my phone. That's cool. Yeah. That's a good feeling. And getting to build those connections in an ecosystem that is no longer going to be bound by a physical box is a great idea. Game Pass has saved me so much money. So much money. Yeah. And it's blending the generation. And I don't think about games and generations anymore. I just think games. And that's something PC gamers have been doing for a while, but it's dope. It's dope.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's ultimately what it is. It's about the experience and how you get that experience. And I think the biggest thing that came from this generation as an overarching whole that I love is crossplay. And I know people
right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing.
And like, people turn up their nose, and I get it. No one wants to play with PC players because they all cheat. Except for Jared. Jared's a good boy.
Yeah, I hate PC cheaters.
Yeah, that's something the PC market's got to figure out. But like, the whole like thing, like, it's been like, for example, there was one day where I wanted a break from Gears 5, and Sam's like, hey, let's go play Warzone. I'm like, we don't have a full squad. He's like, oh, my buddy Justin's on PlayStation. We can just invite him and play. I'm like, cool. So we hopped into Warzone, and we played with Justin, talked with Justin, and everything else, even though he was on PS4 and we were on Xbox.
Yep.
That is the dopest thing. And that's like the same thing that's happening with Rainbow Six Siege. I have a dude that follows me on Twitter. He's been talking bad about how bad I am at Rainbow Six Siege for 3 years now. He always teases me about it. The moment crossplay goes live, he is getting in a lobby and we are settling this 3-year beef. Man to man, chachanka to chachanka. That's how this is going to end.
Chachanka.
But I think that's one of the best things ever. And I know people hate the whole kumbaya mentality, but I think when everybody games together, it's a better experience overall. And the fact that in this generation, the barriers have been ripped down, so it doesn't matter if you're playing on a different console, you can still play with your friends, or it doesn't matter if you have a disability or a physical disability or an impairment. There's a way that you can play games. I think that's the most important thing, because we've seen the gaming market and industry itself compared to what was in 2013 to what it is now. It's been an incredible growth, and there's such a diversity of people that play in it now, and then you can immerse yourself with and become your friends, almost your family in an online environment. It's such a unique experience that just wasn't what gaming was last generation, or even the generation before that, or like when I was growing up playing, DOS games on my parents' PC. It's just gaming is so much more than just a box that you play for entertainment now. And I think that's the coolest thing that came from this generation. If anyone else has any closing thoughts before we close out this episode.
It's been a mixed bag, but there's been a lot of great experiences this generation. Yeah. And I would say the future, honestly, for me personally, the future for Xbox is brighter than it ever has been, where they are right now.
Absolutely.
The potential is there.
Yeah. Like, if nothing else, we're going to have some banging RPGs. Because, like,
I would hope so.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, there is no way that all those RPGs can suck. There's no way it's going to happen. There is no mathematical possibility for Obsidian, In Exile, Bethesda,
Playground.
Hold on. This is a guy I can tell who's never played XCOM before.
I feel
there's always a chance. Just saying.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm sure we'll find out how much I love those kind of games when Gears Tactics lands, though.
A lot better than XCOM.
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, Gears Tactics includes some real nice changes that I wish XCOM would.
It's
awesome. So we'll do some outros here, and I've got an announcement or two for the end. So we will start with our guest, of course. Luke, where can people find the amazing work that you do, my friend?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at InsipidGhost. And if you are willing to check out on your podcast service of choice, the Xbox Expansion Pass, I would very much appreciate that. It is a solo show, as you said earlier on, that I host. It's an analytical look at the Microsoft ecosystem as it pertains to Xbox. So we talk about, the PS5 news will be relevant to Xbox. So I will discuss that, and we'll talk about anything that pertains to that ecosystem. And oftentimes I'll have on guests from around the gaming industry, and it's something that I really enjoy. So yeah, Xbox Expansion Pass for anyone that's willing to check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely check out Luke's work. I remember, I can't even remember how you ended up popping in my feed or anything like that, but I remember someone was like, hey, you guys need to check out this episode of the Xbox Expansion Pass. He's got Ryan McCaffrey on. I'm like, Ryan McCaffrey does not do shows outside of Unlocked. I need to listen to this right now. And like ever since then, I've basically never missed an episode. You do incredible work, and I'm jealous of your ability to do a solo show, because I've thought about it in my head, and I'm like, I can't talk to myself for that length of time and make it like as well articulated as you do. So I definitely encourage people to check out Luke's work, and definitely follow up on either Spotify or your favorite podcasting apps. Sam, where can people find the work that you do, my friend?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's Tolbert, and you can find everything I'm writing, especially over the next couple of weeks, over on Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore. Got 2 console launches to cover. Gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, where can people find the amazing work you do, my friend?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X, and you can find all my fun writing stuff now over at Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore.
Absolutely. And Eric, where can people find you, my friend?
Oh yeah, let me first just say, yeah, another good show. Always great talking to you guys. Great having Luke on, and I actually listen to Luke on my iTunes while I'm at work. iTunes podcast.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, very good show, man. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work for sure. Other than that, yeah, you can find me on Twitter, EC Jackson with an X. And when I'm out here with you fine gentlemen, Brat Podcast Wednesday nights at 9:00.
Absolutely. And I'm Nicholas Downey. You can find all of my written work at lordsofgaming.net. I've got Xbox Series X unboxings. I've got Yakuza Like a Dragon reviews and guides. I've got Gears Tactics reviews and guides. I've got I Don't Sleep. And I'm going to need a mountain of energy drinks and sugary-based substances to keep me alive over the upcoming weeks. But you know what? I would not have it any other way. I'm so excited to be back into this and so excited to be kicking off a next generation, just being part of it. This is my first generation, being a part of that next generation hype cycle, and I'm just vibrating like a small child right now. Like I'm sitting there going, wonder if I could cut out of work early and if anybody'd be mad. But
5 hours early, yeah, it's not bad.
yeah, my EB Games is literally doing they were like between 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. we're closed to the general public. It's only Xbox Series X pre-order pickups. And I'm like, man, I work till 3. But it's an exciting time. Remember, Wednesday, I'll get tomorrow I should have a time Iron Day, but we will have a PS5 pre-launch show. There'll be a bonus perspective episode. It'll be a different panel. It might be some of the same guys. We'll figure out scheduling and everything else. Everyone's busy. But it's exciting times to be a gamer, and it's exciting times to just be alive. So we'll catch you guys next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Gaming Perspective Podcast, episode 38.